ivy. We're arranging it once again to show small token of appreciation for wee bushy flowers.
Thank you.
Another round of applause for a gentleman who today celebrates his birthday, Mr. Albert Bush.
Oh.
And most of you bought raffle tickets. If you're expecting us to draw it now, you're lucky. If you're not, you've got to wait. Because tonight we have an afternoon speaker, Mr. Fred Dibnah. I think you all know him. First time I saw him, he was on telly with one leg wagging over 100 foot of thin air. Fred, leave it to you.
Ah, right. Now we know it. Because I know we all better now.
I know you now.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for inviting me over to tell you a few tales about my life as a steeplejack. Now, being a steeplejack is not very funny, you know. I'll try and sort of graphically explain to you what it's like when you're putting the ladders up the 200-foot chimney, and round the top 20 foot of it, there's a load of bloody ironwork, you know, and sort of a lot of nasty cracks. And you're nearly there, you know, the ring of the hammer on the chisel changes, and you hear a bit of a rumble down the middle, like, and you take the chisel out of the hole, and you can see the bloody sun shining down the top, you know. It's supposed to be like 9 inches thick, and you've just knocked an hole in it with an hammer and a little, you know, 2-pound hammer and a chisel. This iron jacket is supporting about 5 ton of rock, you know, sort of above you, and you've got to get it off without it getting you off. So, like I say, ladies and gentlemen, it ain't very funny. It's the things that people say to you when you're down on the ground. And I can't help but notice they've nearly always got a Mercedes and a briefcase with brass corners on. And after they've said it, after they've said it, you think, how did a pilot like that get a Mercedes? Right, grand example. Donald's on the floor, I'm 200 foot up in the sky. And well, it's Neil now who was on the floor, and I'm 200 foot up in the sky. And he comes in, he gets out of the Mercedes, and he says to Donald, he said, "Has he ever fallen off?" Donald said, "Yeah, but I caught him." Like I say, it's really unbelievable what they say. And telephone calls are another good sort of a laugh, as you might say. And this is a perfectly true story about my ex-wife, Joan Collins, as I refer to her as, you know. She screwed me for 40,000. A very posh architectural firm in Bolton called Bradshaw, Gas and Hopes. Now, these Bradshaw, Gas and Hopes reside in a Georgian terrace, you see. And they've got gas lamps outside, real old-fashioned outfit, you know, been there for years. And one day the phone rang, and the fella at the other end, he says, "I say," he said, "we've had a request to provide and fix a weathercock," he said, "at St Anne's Church at Turton." I said, "I know the one, you know, I've done the lightning conductor." He said, "How much will it cost?" I said, "Well, give us 400 quid, and I'll make you one 2 foot long and 18 inches deep, stick the gold leaf on, and I'll stick it up on top of the spire," you see. He said, "Very reasonable," he said, "we'll bob an order note in the post in the morning." So a couple of days later, along come the order note, provide and fix weathercock, blah, 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 St Anne's Church, blah, blah, blah. So we're off to the scrapyard, sheet of copper, 3 foot long, 2 foot deep. 3 days in the shed with the frets on, the soldering iron and the copper rivets. We've got a beautiful weathercock, but if you think back a year or two to when the price of gold were going up, all the bloody sign writers have been and bought all the gold leaf. So we're knackered, the job stopped, you know, so we propped the weathercock up in corner at shed, and buggered off up a chimney somewhere out at way, you see. Now, me and Joan Collins were still in love then, and the first question on re-entry at tea time were, or you still is, has anybody rung, you know, has any important phone calls come in today, you see? And I said, has anybody rung today, love? And she says, yeah, she said, Bradshaw, Gas and Hopes have been on about the weathercock. I said, did you tell them we couldn't get no gold leaf? And she said, yeah. I said, what did he say, like, you know? And she said, well, he said to me, I'm not bothered about the gold leaf. He said, I want to know, very authoritarian guy this, you know, he said, I want to know whether it'll twirl or not. And she says, well, Fred's cock twirls and so will yours when he's done with it. This isn't really as vulgar as it might appear. At that moment in time, you see, she's sort of nonchalantly gazing out the back window, and on the top of the engine shed in the garden, we've got our own weathercock that's to-ing and fro-ing in the wind, and it's like, well, Fred's cock does, and so will yours. This next tale is perfectly true and very long, and so if you want to pee, go now and you'll be back in time. Or you won't get a drink. And what it involves is going down a big hill on a steamroller and reaching the unbelievable speed of about 20 miles an hour and crashing through a bloody stone wall at the bottom and living to tell the tale about it. Now, there's not many men done this, you know, and the few that have always sell the bloody steamroller afterwards, I've noticed, you know. And now, like I say, it's long and complicated. I got this job dismantling some beautiful Victorian chimney stacks, you see, on a mansion up Chorley New Road outside of Bolton. And these chimney stacks were made out of beautiful blocks of stone, octagonal shaped, about 18 inches across, with a 9-inch hole chopped right through the middle. And, you know, a modern man would have hired a skip, belted them with a 14-pound hammer, sent the invoice down the road, you know, that's it. But somebody had worked really hard making these stones, and I thought, I'll save them. So I borrowed this trailer that weighed 3.5 tons and had no brakes. Now, that in itself is not good, you know. Now, on Sunday tea time, when there were no cops about, I hooked the Land Rover onto it and zoomed across town with it. Oh, jolly, when you come to a downer, you can feel the bloody trailer shoving the Land Rover like it. Parked it under a big tree in the grounds of this mansion. And on Monday, proceeded to construct this aerial wireway, you know, which, a bit like slate quarries used to have, you know. And about Wednesday-ish, we were ready, and the rocks are coming down the wire, and Donald's lining them up on the trailer in rows, you see. Now, when we got one layer all over this trailer, not knowing the pulling capabilities of a 1910 steamroller, which really isn't an heavy haulage vehicle, we decided we'd take the steamroller and hook it on, you know, and see what happened, you see. So you couldn't tell they were out on the back of the bloody thing, you know, down the road and all that. Now, I live in a funny place, so it's like down a very steep hill and very awkward. And it took me all Sunday to unload this trailer. So on the second trailer load, I thought, I'll sell these round neighbourhood for garden ornaments, you see. There are 2 outside the pub, which I never got paid for. But we're loading up the trailer on the second attempt. And the bank manager agreed. We decided we'd put 2 layers on this trailer. So looking at it from the arse end, the trailer's slightly bent and the tyres are pear-shaped underneath the weight. and it's getting a bit nearer to winter, you know, there were more dead leaves on the road and all that. And we hooked the engine on, and you could really tell on the second trailer load that there were a bit of weight on. It weren't like Black 5 with 40 wagons of coal, but not so far off, you know. When you come to a downer, you could feel it, you know, it was shoving the engine, you know, and of course, no fancy brakes, you see. The thing is, I flogged all these round the neighbourhood for 10p each second, and then on the third and final trailer full, I got a phone call from a restaurant called The Last Drop, which is situated on top of a mountain outside of Bolton, you see. And the fella at the other end, he said, I believe you've got these stones with holes in. I said, yeah, but the hundreds of them, like polo mints, I don't know what to do with them. He said, well, we'd like to buy a wagon load off you. I said, well, how much will you give me? He said, we'll give you 80 quid. I said, you're on cop, delivered by steam power. And then I thought, you dick, how are you going to get up the mountain? Yeah. We'd got 2 layers of rock on the trailer and 1 chimney stack to take down. So it's what's in a bus, we put that in the middle. the chassis even more bent and the tyres are more pear-shaped, and it's autumn, been raining for days, the bloody wet leaves everywhere. This engine has no diff, you know, so to make both wheels go round, your two big iron pins you stay, and when you come to a bend, it won't go round bend, you see. The thing is, both wheels are going round and we're not going anywhere. The bloody trailer's stuck to the floor. Anyway, we borrowed a dustbin, scattered a few ashes, and we got a grip. And we got outside onto Charlie New Road, and away we went, you see. But like I said, when you come to a downer, you could boom, silver streaks on the wheels, you know, like boom, you know, when the bloody drawbar tightened up like them. Anyway, rained all night, everything were wrong, the whole thing had an omen about it. The coal man had had burglars. Sunday morning, it's parked outside our house in a big long road, like the bloody trailer and the engine. And we lit the fire. But Billy Greenhouse, Sid knows Billy Greenhouse. Billy turned up in his pinstripe suit for the ride, you see. He never had a ride on a steamroller before. And we set off. Now there's a big hill going out to Bolton, Turner Bridge Brew, and the rain runs down about 2 foot wide in gutter. And I've got the speech prepared, you know, we've got 3 stolen road lamps on the arse end of the trailer, we've got 300 weight of coal, we've got loads of blocks of wood in case it fixes feet up, and I've got my speech ready. If any silver streaks come on the wheels of this engine, the blocks of wood are under, the red lamps are on, and we'll come back on Monday. Didn't, went up the hill, beautiful. No silver streaks on the wheels. Then there's 1 or 2 undulations, and then you come to it. It's a right-hand bend, and at 45 degrees, and it's called Hospital Brew, this big hill, you know. Christ, you know. Got to the bottom of it, turn right, you know. Thought, here's the time we change gear. Now, steamrollers have 2 gears, slow and bloody slow, you know. Put it in the bottom gear, you know. Shove the reverse and lever forward, open the regulator. All the way up the hill, we got there. Amazing, you know. Burned all the paint off the funnel, but we got there. You know? So there must be people here who've never been to this place, so I've got to digress and explain the road layout of this place, really. You know, basically, it's one road that goes right up to the restaurant. You go round the back onto the car park, do what you're doing up there, and then you come down a one-way street like a slip road that meets the main entrance road at an approximate angle of 45 degrees, where there is a cattle grid, a flagpole, a gas lamp, and various half beer barrels full of shrubs, you see. Now, we've got rid of the rocks, we've got the 80 quid, wouldn't care if we could have had a pint, the bloody pub was shut. We're at the top of the hill, we come round the corner, and in them days, they weren't as well off as they are now, and the field at the back were just muck and mud and ballast and anyhow rubbish like. And so the wheels had a fair amount of muck stuck on them. And we come round the corner, and Billy Greenhouse, he stood on the trailer at the back, the red lamps are lit, young Webber's steering, he's 18 years old, he's working the handle, I'm working the regulator, and we set off down the hill. Now, most traction engines and steamrollers have a design fault, you know, like the bloody main bearings are too far apart for a crankshaft like of this design, and when you over rev them, the flywheel gives it this, and you know you're going too fast. Now, we've got to the stage where the bloody flywheel's waddling a bit like, so we've got to do a bit of Casey Jones job, you know, put it in reverse and a bit of steam on, but it's not having any effect, this. Now, the braking system is also bad news. It's practically non-existent. On the back axle there's a big iron drum which is liberally lubricated by the oil off the end of the gearing, and it's surrounded with blocks of wood and a big lever and a square threaded. You start screwing, nothing happens until you run over a pebble. And soon as the roll wheel lifts off the deck, the brakes are on and it's a big sledge then, you know. We haven't quite come to this stage, but we're still doing the Casey Jones job, you know, handle back, regulator open. It retarded it, but it didn't stop the weight. The wheel stopped turning and the engine started accelerating, and we're now going down the hill at a fair lick of knots, you see. Billy Greenhouse realises there's something terribly wrong when he hears the swearing, and he jumped over the wall into the bloody field and let me and Webber go down the field. Now, being in hilly country, we've got both pins in, you see. Now, there's no way this engine's going to make this 45-degree bend at the bottom. Now, a steamroller entering a wet field at speed is like a bar of soap on a wet sink. You can't stop the bloody thing, you know. The thing is, if we go across the cattle grid and into the field is little more than twice the length of this room, and then there's a 15-foot drop into the back of a geriatric hospital. I've got visions of dead old ladies and twisted bloody National Health bedsteads. Anyway, the pillar, there's a big square pillar there. It's 4 foot wide, 2 foot thick, with a 4-inch steam pipe down the middle and the backside of a no entry sign on. It's still there, you know, they rebuilt it after. The pillar, that's got to take some of the bloody sting out of it all, you know. So we hit the pillar with the best metallic clang you've ever heard, like the Titfield Thunderbolt and St James hitting that engine. Same noise, you know, but it didn't stop it. It sort of started to take off like Concorde. Half of it set off up into the sky, and it's going along on the arse end on the tender. The scrapes are still underneath to prove it. But the pillar, it cut the pillar off about 2 foot from floor, and the rear wheels finally came to rest on top of the pillar. And it's amazing at times like this, with the front of it 10 foot up in the sky, how you've got time to think, you know. And I'm still holding on to the handles. And I didn't have long to wait, you know. The Weber had disappeared, I don't know where he went. The engine came down, you know, and the front forks broke into 3 pieces. The boiler dug a bloody hole in the road 18 inches deep. It's got 125 in its belly, a raging fire. Now, as you lot here know, this is not the recommended handle to park a locomotive boiler. The thing is, it's stuck in the bloody deck. We've only brought the short shovel. Being near to home, we didn't expect any clinkering operations. So I've got to stand on the axle boxes, and when the fire hole door's like flat on bloody floor, more or less, you open the flames are coming out, burning my wedding gear, the tarmacs on fire. And by this time, a small crowd had gathered. And in this crowd, there were one fella who had a camera, you know, David Bailey, and he's going like buggery with this camera, you know, only in his shirt sleeves, you see. And then another fella, rather thoughtfully, stood in the gloom. It's nearly dark by now, you know, and I thought I'd go and have a chat with him. I'm weighing up the damage, weighing up where there's some more forks and everything. I knew there were a pair of forks in Dewsbury, 2 pair leaning against a wall with grass growing on top of it. The man with the trilby on, he said, "My lad's got a breakdown wagon, would you like me to give him a ring?" And I said, "Well, do you think he'd lift it up?" Like, you know, he said, "Yeah, I think so." So he disappeared. David Bailey's still at it with camera. I'm thinking about if I've got this man's phone number in Dewsbury. Cut a long story short, 70 quid got the forks, 15 quid down an M62 on the back of a wagon, 3 telegraph poles and a pair of 2-ton chain blocks, and by the following Wednesday, we were back on its feet again. Now, every day, this little lad come with his paper bag on, you know, and I felt really mean, you know, I'd just destroyed someone. It took me 10 years and a divorce for get going, you see. The thing is, on the Wednesday, I condescended to speak to this kid, and I just said to him, "Did you see this disaster cock?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I only live over there." And he said, "Me and my dad were having our tea," and my dad said, "Bloody hell, that's going fast for the steamroller." And he said, "You know that horse on front?" He said, "I've got its head, and its 4 legs and its tail. Well, the torso part of it was still screwed to the smoke box door, you see." And I said, "Do you remember the man with the camera? You know, I knew he couldn't have come far because he were in his shirt sleeves, you see. And it's raining, and there were no other cars there were no vehicles. The thing is," he said, "Anna," he said, "it's Mr. Jones. He lives in that house with the boat in drive." I said, "Well, I'll tell you what, cock, I'll get the rest of this horse off the front of here if you'll go and ask him if I can borrow his negatives, you see." And he zoomed over the field, he come back, he said, "Saturday morning he'll have the pictures and he'll give you negatives, and I'll give him the half of this cast iron horse." And away he trotted, you see. And we're there Saturday morning, the fire's lit, everything, bloody needles coming round like, everything's going good. Thought, I've not upset his Kellogg's cornflakes or whatever, his egg and bacon. I waited till about 9 o'clock and I went across, up the drive, the bolt in the drive, knocked on the door, and this vision appeared, looked like there'd been a bereavement in the family. It didn't look well at all, you know. I said, I'm the man in the field. He said, aye. He said, I'm the silly bastard who forgot to take the lens cap off the camera. They were his words, no mine. Some of you might remember this. This is a true story about a ginger tomcat and a 200-foot chimney on a cold and frosty morning. And I'm mending this chimney, you see, so we've not got to the staging part, like. We got the ladders up both sides, you see, and me and old Donald arrive on the job, and this bloody tomcat sat on the packing piece in between the ladder and the wall of the chimney. So I said to Don, I'll just nip up and get it, you see. So as I put 1 foot on one rung of the bottom ladder, the cat put one paw on bottom rung of the second ladder. By the time I'm at the top of the bottom ladder, the cat's 35 foot up in sky at the top of the second ladder, you see. Which is a fairly long way for a cat to fall, you know. So I thought, sod it, and it's freezing, you know. Like, you've got to be a bit deranged for one to climb up a 200-foot chimney on a cold and frosty Monday morning for a start, you know. So I said to Donald, I'll go and see the management. There's still a lot of Timothy West, you know, left, you know, Mr. Hardacre's type characters. I go in and I said, hey, we've got this cat up the chimney. The next bit is the funny bit, I think. So we've got this cat, will you ring fire brigade, you know, and they'll rescue it, you know, what have you. He said, no, he said, if we ring the fire brigade, they'll send us a bill. But he said, if we ring the RSPCA, they have an arrangement with the fire brigade and they come for notes. he rings his lady, you know, his personal telephone assistant. We had a cup of tea and a talk about the great days of when cotton mills were driven by steam engines. We thought we'd go outside and see what's going on, you see. And woe is me, we went out through the back door of the office. The bloody cat's about 90-odd foot up the chimney. This guy stood there in a black overcoat with 3 pips up like a black van. And this stupid-looking, self-explanatory piece of equipment, really, a piece of conduit piping with a wire up the middle, comes out the top, tied round the neck of the pipe. The idea is you put the loop over the irate beast's head and pull the string at the other end. You got it by the what's-its, haven't you? How is he going to work that off a vertical ladder, I thought, straight. He was stood there like a shepherd with it, you know. Looking a bit glum, really, like. So I says to Donald, what happened, you know? He said, well, you know, this guy here, oh, no problem, I'll get it, you know. As he went up the bottom 2 ladders, the cat went up the bottom 4, like, you know. When he got to about 50 foot up, his bottle went, you know, so he decided he'd retreat and come down, you see. So I said, well, I know what we'll do. I'll go up the other ladders on the other side, and on the top of the chimney, there's a layer of soup, which is the consistency of the crust on a loaf of bread. And I'll break up the bloody suit and I'll drop it down on the cat, you see, and hopefully it'll get fed up with this and go into reverse. So I'm sat on top of this chimney, slowly being asphyxiated with the smoke, and I'm busting this bloody soot up and dropping it down on the cat. And it got the idea, it must have thought, there's life up there, I shall continue. See this bloody red thing coming in and out of the rungs of the ladders. 6 foot from the top of the chimney, there's a ledge 3 inches wide, and by this time the cat is on the ledge, you know. Now I can't walk on a ledge 3 inches wide. If I'd have had a brush steel, I could have flicked the bloody thing off. A large crowd had gathered, you know. All the cat lovers of Bolton were around the bottom. They had nets round bottom. They weren't for me, they were for the bloody cat, you know. Couldn't get near the chimney for nets, you know, all round bottom, like a bloody tennis court before. The thing is, dinner time's approached. By this time, BBC are there, and TV are there, and everybody were there, and sort of, he'd come down chimney, and he'd come out this to me, the classic, this, real brains in here, this RSPCA training. He said, I've got it, simple. What we'll do after dinner, he said, we'll get my cat box, and he said, we'll put 4 pieces of string on it, and 2 tins of kitty cat in it, open. And you can sit on top of the chimney. And you get jobs like that. He said, you lower it down the side and the cat will jump in the box. Clever stuff, that, you know. Well, all afternoon we were going round top of this chimney, me and this cat. He'd had more on its mind, like self-preservation than bloody food, you know, he didn't want to know. Anyway, dusk, it's winter, and 4 o'clock it's getting dark, so down the ladder again. And he come out with another, he said, tonight, when it gets cold and it's hungry, it'll come down on its own. It peed down all night long. The only difference in morning, it were a black one instead of a red one. It's bloody state of anointed brood at all. Its tail, it looked more like a fox. Its tail were about 4 inches round, and it were on this ledge walking backwards and making funny noises. I thought, today, I'm not going to let anybody tell me what to do. I shall put the platform up. And this cat's got to get on this platform, and I can run as fast as it can on the platform. If it can't stop when it gets to the corner, well, so be it. Anyway, we got a few bits and pieces up, and dinner time's here again, you see. So down the ladder, and then it all happened. Another man with a black overcoat come out the crowd, and he said, we have a man here who specialises in rescuing cats in high places. And the manager, he already had angina, it finished him off this. He says, we don't want no heroes, he's the only man who's going up this chimney, we don't want to bugger off, you know, and also BBC went to one pub, ITV went to another, and me and Donald went home. 1 o'clock, reconvene time, we come back. And I've been looking at chimneys ever since I was this big, and I can see a chimney 2 miles away. If there's some lump on side, it's a man climbing up a ladder, you see. I said to Donald, there's somebody up our chimney, you know. He said, yeah, I don't think he could see that far, you know, the chimney at all. The thing is, zoom into the mill yard, the black Mariah's there, the cops are there, the bloody ambulance is there. This guy's got the cat, but he's knackered. He's holding on with one hand. And he's only a ladder down from top, you see, which is nothing, you know. And this cat, you know, I said, hang on, I'll fire off up the ladder and see how he's doing, you see. So getting like underneath his arse near the top, and I looked up, and the vision were like green wellies and one of them linseed oil jackets. He's got to have come from Cheshire, somewhere like that. Anyway, I said, are you all right, Cock? And he said, yeah, but the bloody cat, you know, Christ, it had hooks sticking out 3/4 of an inch. It would have been like a sticky bob if it had gone anywhere near. It go right through your jacket and into the meat, and that would have been it. So hence the, you know, it was like this. I said, look, I'll go down and I'll get this man's cat box, it'll be tied on the rope, and I'll come back up with it, because it's going to be a 4-handed job putting this cat away. I'll pull the pin into the lid, you shove it in, I'll shut the lid, pull the pin in. Everything went well, you see. Down the ladder, they had the bloody cat out the box. It must have been the most photographed cat in Western Europe. Yeah. He come down, they arrested him. I never saw him again. Anybody who, if you won't get a pint, you know, you're all right. Anybody who climbs up big structures who said they'd never dropped anything, you know, I mean, I've not dropped a lot, and I've only ever had one claim on insurance in all my nearly 30 years of doing this funny job. The thing is, that when you do drop something, you know, and you see it howling away, like, and there's a bloody slate roof down below, you know, and bong, a little black hole appears, you're in the slates, you know, and you're waiting for somebody coming out saying, hey, Charlie's in here with a chisel stuck in his head. Or you want to reach out and try and grab it, you know, which is fatal, you end up dead yourself. On this particular occasion, we were right in the middle of Bolton here at Dole, and there's a big back street goes down past this chimney. It's all gone now, you know. The thing is, this chimney, with one of these all rotten at the top, with about 5 ton of rock round top, and we speculated and bought 6 new planks for the top deck. Now that's big money in steeplejacking terms, you know, spending money like 6 new planks. Because you know, all this rock we're going to be resting on these planks, you see. Anyway, as usual, it'd been raining hard all night. 400 feet of rope hanging on a big chimney is like an inverted wick. All the water is at the wrong end. The bloody ends you want to tie the knots in, you see. Yeah. Now I'm up in the woodwork. The vision down below is base of chimney, what looks like a bloody inch-wide slot, which is actually about 3 foot wide, the mill wall, which is 9 foot high with a ridge on it like a church roof, a 2 foot wide Victorian pavement, and then a big row of market men's bloody Volvo estates and about 10 Jags and all up this back street, you see. And I'm up there at the top, Donald's on the end of the row, the plank's coming up the side of the chimney. The next thing, the plank's going the other way, down the side of the chimney. Because of the wetness of the rope, new planks have sharp corners, the bloody knot weren't gripping too hard, you know. Right downside, and I'm, oh Christ, you know, it's going to nail one of these cars to the pavement. But it's nothing from 200 foot, the car, like dinky toys are there, you know. And it's howling down the side of the chimney, and I'm praying to him up there. Thank the Lord, like there's no iron bands on this chimney. One touch of the end of the plank, a bit of deflection, and it's got to clear this bloody gap, the wall and the pavement, and boom, straight through the roof of a Mark 10 Jag. He said, you think it? It didn't. It went straight down side of the chimney, and in between the chimney and the wall there were a great pyramid of like fly ash. And I could see, you know, it went into the doing, and it was going like one of them arrows in a barrel of cider, you know. Oh, thank God for that, you know. And the passenger side door opened on the nearest car, dead in line with it, and a bloke got out, you know. Bloody hell, you know. That guy lives being 100 years old, he'll never know this morning how near to dying he comes. Another one about steamrollers. You never believe this, really. We'd had breakfast at a pub somewhere. We're going to up Hazel Grove anyway. We'd had breakfast at this pub, and it's getting well after dinner. And we passed this pie shop where they have light shining on the pies in glass case, make them look better, you see. Really hungry. Stop the engine. Into the pie shop, 3 of these pies, you see, and there were 3 lads, like, we're in a lay-by, you know, sat on the plank in front of the green shed. And this big Rover car come howling up Hazel Grove, front end down, arse end up, passenger window winding down, camera out, you see. I mean, the guy could have pulled up nice and slow and parked further up the road and walked. We're not going nowhere, we're stuck in sun at side of the road. But he forgot to inform the poor sod who were right up his arse at the back. So our vision, like, have another munch of the pie while these 2 cars, camera, window down, one stuck into back at the other, come sliding by with all chrome strips and busted plastic, you see. And then they finally come to an halt about a bit more length of this room further up, like, and then another one come, bush. So that's 3 in a row, you know. Indirectly, we are like responsible for that. Anyway, the pies are gone. Whip round with the oil can, you know. Put it into gear. I'll never understand the logic of this, you know. After they'd realised they were causing a tailback, they decided they'd move them half on pavement, half on road, you see. And they're all there getting the papers out and arguing the toss as to whose fault it were. And as we steamed by, they all stopped what they were doing and waved to us. You know? It must have done about £10,000 worth of damage. And they're waving. You see, the man with the big Mercedes and the briefcase with the brass corners. Halfway up this pile of bricks, you know, with fags, matches and hammer and chisel and pocket full of plugwood. And in he comes, and Donald's at the bottom holding the ladder against the wall, you see. And he I don't know anything about this, of course, till I come down, you see. He said, that guy who come in, he said, you never believe what he said to me. I said, what did he say? You know, he said, well, he said to me, do you know, he said, I always wanted to know how they put ladders up a factory chimney. I always thought they laid them down in a long line on the floor and reared them up. Can you imagine saying to somebody, will you put your foot on the bottom rung of this ladder? 200 foot ladder. Most men have difficulty with a double 16-pin extension ladder. Yeah. Like I say, how did he get a Mercedes? You know? This is a true story about near disaster. If you're knocking a chimney down a brick at once, the top half is always the easiest because the bloody wall's the thinnest. When you get down to the bottom half, you know, 2 foot odd thick and at bottom 3 foot thick, it's like digging the pavement up, you know, every day, you know, and you get really disillusioned if it's not coming off so easy. And we'd got to the stage where if you backed up 2 bricks, it just bored a hole in it, you know, it just would not come apart. And we're in the pub at lunchtime, consoling ourselves, and the landlord had been a fireman down the pit, you see, and he said, why don't you try a few poppers in it? Now, for us, amongst us who don't know what that means, it means drill a few holes and put a few small charges in and boom, 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 shake it up a bit, you see. The thing is, at the bottom of this chimney, there's the substation and the blacksmith shop of a big mill, you know. Now, if we damage any of this, you know, the whole place is stopped, you see. There's no way, you know. I'm thinking more in terms of hydraulics. If we could get a big hydraulic ram inside it, hanging on a piece of steam pipe on a swivel, arse end down, business end up, you see, with a chisel on the end and just keep ramming it, you know, from the inside. They were just shut in Astley Green Pit, you know, steam engine was still running and everything. And he knew the engineer there, you know, and off we went to Astley Green, and the guy pinched us this bloody great pipe bender or something it had been, and a couple of days rigging it all up with a collar on the end and chisels and magic, you know. Little bugger like me could knock more off than 3 6-foot Irishmen in a day, easy. Magic's going great. The thing is, why keep nibbling, you know, why not leave the front till it's 3 foot high, 2 foot thick, and half the circumference of the chimney, and then put a bit of wood against it, dispense with the chisels, put the ram against it, put a bit of steam on, and knock a few iron wedges in, and it all comes loose, you see, like sort of 3/4 of a polo mint, you know, about 12 foot wide. Keep shoving, you know, and it goes over the edge, you see, magic. So, well, 3 foot, you know, it'd be better if it were 5 foot, wouldn't it? There'd be more bricks. And ultimately, it ended up 3 foot thick, 9 foot tall, and half the circumference of the chimney. Which there, when it does come off its arse, you're dealing with an unbelievably unstable piece of brickwork. You know, when it goes over that way, there's 2 great wings sticking up that really want to do a bit of this, don't they, you know? The thing is, so it didn't do that. We had big blocks of wood in the corners, and every time it went a bit that way, we tightened up the wood, you see. Now the chap, you'd never believe this, the chap who were helping me played the fiddle in the alley on this, you know. He's dead now.
Did you kill him?
We're a frustrated steeplejack. Kenneth and I are stood on all as we had across the hole in the middle with 2 planks. And it's nearly ready for going off the edge. Now, we'd done so many of these that we knew when the moment of departure were coming up, you see, we're groaning and creaking, and it kept, you know, another move, tighten up the wood, you know, and all of that. All the lads out of the mechanic shop and the blacksmiths had all got to line up against the side of the mill and be counted, so we knew where all human life were on its departure, you see. So they're all there lined up. And it's done a few grunts and groans, and it's going to go off the edge, but it didn't, you know. The bloody thing split right down the middle, you know. Well, this half come off the wood, jumped off the planks onto the wall over there. I filled a bloody draft now off it, you know. Down the middle, the chimney's giving it this. The other piece went over the side, bounced off the side. 2 big lumps about 4 foot square. One of them hit the ridge pole, and the walls of the blacksmith shop went out, and the roof went in. It's amazing how long it is before this starts. I mean, when you've nearly died, you know. So the thing is, down the ladders, you know. It's dinner time, so we're in the pub over the road. In them days, an engineer in a big mill was like a law unto himself, you see. And he had his own billiard table, this guy, the big chief, you know. And he was there in his private billiard room, and he's just going to pot one. And this kid goes in, he said, hey, he said, Fred's just wrecked the blacksmith shop, you know. And he says to him, has anybody been killed? And the kid said, no. He said, oh, well, we'll finish the game off then. You're up there and you look down, and somebody's talking to him again, you see. Like I say, you don't know who they are till you come down, you see. And came down this day, and I says to Donald, who were that with black overcoat at the van? He said, here, he's left you his card. Quap undertaking service. Back 10% off if we're on break. Got this job, putting wire netting up, stop the pigeons getting in on this church, you see. And me and my old fellow, we've been up there for half an hour or so, and there's a shuffling up the spiral staircase, and the vicar appears, you see, and he says, could you cut the banging about 11:45? He said, we've got a funeral on. I said, no problem, you know, so 11:45, and we're there in 6 inches of dried pigeon droppings in this bell chamber. And we're looking down through the louvers, and the cortege arrives, you see, and it's a posh dude, armour jackets and tall hats and all that, Rolls Royce meat wagon. And they're coming up the path with the box, and he's in front, you see. And the old fella recognises the bereaved. They're all an outfit called Glaisters, who had a big bleach works in Bolton that my father worked for 40 years and never got more than 20 quid. The thing is, they're coming up the path with old man Glaister, you know, in his box, you see. And they've got to be, at this moment in time, somewhere in the base of the tower. And I'm like looking round, you know, we've got another half an hour of enforced idleness, so I'm looking round for something to do, you see. And I noticed the wire that drove the chiming mechanism on the clock were off the pulley and on the pin that were on the shackle that were anchored to the top of a bloody great 400 weight block of cast iron that were just hanging there above this wooden box that went for about 80 odd feet down the inside corner of the church spire, you see. So I said to the old fella, you get that blanket corner and put it on the handrail and swing on the end, and when the weight goes up, I mean, this is a silent operation, isn't it? You know, when the weight goes up, I'll put the wire back on the wheel, you see. So he's on the end of the plank and the weight is going up, and for us mechanically minded, we were a bit short on the fulcrum. We searched around in the dried pigeon droppings and found half a brick. We got the half a brick on the bloody handrail, the old fella's on the end of the plank, the weight's going up. It's like louver, 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 winder in apex of church. You can see right up to the altar at the other end of church. The 3/4 of the way up the aisle with the coffin, and the brick flut out now. Unless you whizzed a brick down a mine shaft, you won't know what I'm talking about. It goes like boom, boom, boom. They pulled up, they thought the old bugger had woke up. The more up-to-date one now, like when I got me new wife, I was chased about by the media, some, you know, quite a bit, you see, and in the end, you've got to succumb to these men because, you know, whatever they print, they'll make a bugger of it, and it'll be somebody else's turn day after. So Sue had gone off to the supermarket, and they're all waiting up our road, looking through the rear view mirrors, and I come home in Land Rover, and they all sprung out, you see, and the leader of the pack, he's got the white Mac on, big lapels, belt 4 inches wide and short hand pad, you see, and you look like George Raft, you know, and he says, all we want to do, he says, just, you know, meet your lady friend, you see. I said, well, you better ask her when she comes back from supermarket. Come here, you know, so about 7 of them end up in the parlour, you see, and Susie arrives in the end from the shopping trip, and he said, look, love, he said, all we want to do is take a picture of you and Fred. And she says to him, I'll have my photograph taken with Fred on top of that big chimney he's knocking down in Bolton. The guy with the white mic says, what a wonderful idea, for he never consulted the poor sod stood in the corner with the camera. Like there were a lot, you know, does he want me to take this photograph from the ground? Does he want me to take the photograph from up the top? Ooh. So, Susie went and put her jeans on and her climbing gear, and we all went off to this chimney. And it weren't as windy as today, but it was fairly windy and a bit drizzling rain. Sue's showing off a bit, up the ladders, gone on the platform at the top. And this guy with the cameras reluctantly twiddling the knobs and, you know, doing a lot of unnecessary, I'd say, examination of this here camera effort, like. And I set off, and he reluctantly approached the ladder at the bottom and set off. And you can always tell when they're never going to make it, you know, like, number one, their arms seem to go shorter and shorter. They're trying to lap their inner thighs round the bloody ladder. They've a look of wonderment on the face as to why they can't bend that part of their anatomy around the ladder, you see. So we're dying of exposure at the top. So Susie said, why don't you go down and give him a pep talk? So fires off down the ladder, got underneath, you can get by a bloke on one of them ladders if you know how to do it. got underneath his arse like a bucked him up no end, you see. So he really relaxed a bit and got a, you know, got one. Finally, he's at the top, but the camera's underneath the back. Sue's got the camera, and we literally slid him round the corner, you know, and he's on these boards. And he's knackered, you know, he's green, and there's no way he's going to get up, you know. And I'm saying, you know, do you not think we made a mistake? Like, you know, he said, look, he said, I've got up here, I'm going to stand up eventually, and I'm going to take this photograph. So just give us a minute, he says, you know. And anyway, another bloody 5 minutes elapsed, and he stood up. And it was like a three-point touch. He got shoulder against the wall, one leg over here, a big three-cornered hole underneath, you know, all green. And he had, without a doubt, got all the composure that he would ever going to get. And then Susie says, can you feel it swaying in the wind? I've never seen it before. His face went all green again, you know. That was quite funny. Last one, this, you can all get a pint now. We're in the middle of the Calendar Cable Company at Prescott, near Liverpool. And if you're going to blow a big chimney up, it looks very, very similar to what it did before you come, you know, like, other than a few cream spots on the side and a few bits of wire hanging out of it. It's almost the same as what it was before you came. But if you're going to prop one up on sticks and you've chiselled the bottom out of it, and you can see daylight shining through half of it, and they've just spent 10 million quid in that building over there with high-tech machinery. The hierarchy have a tendency to get a bit upset, you know, a bit sort of edgy, you know, as you might say. And I'd gone on a walkabout round the place, and Donald, who never wanders far, he sat at the bottom of the chimney with his flask and his butties. And I reappeared at 1 o'clock, you see, and I says to him, "Are you all right?" Like, you know, he said, "Yeah, chimney were right, all he needed a match thrown at it, and it would have fell over, you know." He said, but the managing director's not, you know. I said, well, what's up with him, you know? He said, well, he come just after you'd gone, and he said to me, has he ever had any that went wrong? Donald, who's a bit of a dry bugger, he was indeed at Christmas. He said, well, he said, on average, he said, it's 1 in every 4, and we've just done 3 good ones. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening.
Thank you.
It's not engine cruise rotor, is it?
I was looking for this chart today.
290s. Not far off. This is as good as a mile.
Neil and the cat.
807. 807.
Second number. Second number.
410.
410. Right, no. Have a turn next one now. Sorry to upset you. Nobody cares if it's all over there. It's not coincidence, that.
Going into a pub at Smoker, bumped into you and Alan Whitby one week and pizza crowd and someone was burning. We're both the same way. Tap on the shoulder and I can find the
181.
I bet it's all that table. Is that all that table? I know. What was it?
933.
Who's got it? Yeah.
Draw another quick.
933.
Who's gone home?
Nobody's gone home.
Who's got 933? It's not
It is. I told you it was all that table.
Who is it?
It's Jim Brennan. And it was Alan Horton, and they're all up on that table up there.